In the heart of Tennessee lies a chilling secret buried beneath cotton and legacy. A dynasty built on Southern wealth, prestige, and brutal silence. The Chamberlain family, once celebrated for their booming cotton empire, harbored a truth that would remain hidden for over a century. 73 Unmarked Graves. This is the story of how blood, labor, and silence helped create a fortune, and how history almost forgot the people who paid the price. 1863. Tennessee, the Chamberlain Dynasty. The Cotton Fortune built on 73 Unmarked Graves. Part 1. Tennessee in 1863 to 101 to 3 o'clock scene. Civil War reenactments. Maps of Tennessee. Archival drawings. Tennessee in 1863 was a land divided both politically and morally. The Civil War was raging. Union and Confederate forces clashed across hills and plantations. Slavery remained the economic engine of the South, particularly in agricultural states like Tennessee. Amidst this chaos, one family was rising to power. The Chamberlains, owners of nearly 800 acres of fertile land near Franklin, Tennessee. The Chamberlains turned cotton into currency. They weren't just landowners, they were empire builders. Part 2. The Chamberlain family rise. 301 to 6 o'clock. The patriarch, Elijah Chamberlain, was known for his progressive agricultural methods and strict discipline. By the late 1850s, the Chamberlain plantation was producing some of the region's highest cotton yields. But what wasn't recorded in family journals or celebrated at social gatherings was the cost of that success. Behind every bale of cotton were hands enslaved, broken, unseen. Over 120 enslaved individuals lived and worked on the Chamberlain property. Some were born there. Many would die there. Part 3. Voices silenced. 601 to 9 o'clock scene. Footage of rural graveyards, aerial drone, overgrown land, oral history. Interviews. As profits grew, so did the need to cover up the human suffering that made them possible. Enslaved workers who died on the plantation, whether from overwork, abuse, disease, or despair, were not buried in marked cemeteries. Instead, their bodies were laid to rest in a small patch of earth behind the cotton fields. No names, no stones, no ceremony. Just silence. Local law always whispered of the field of ghosts behind the plantation. But for generations, no one dared to investigate. Part 4. The Unmarked Graves. 901 to 12 o'clock scene. Ground-penetrating radar GPR footage. Archaeologists at work. Historical documents. In 2018, a local university history department began an independent study of Civil War land use in Williamson County. A drone survey of the old Chamberlain estate revealed curious soil anomalies. Ground-penetrating radar confirmed it. Rows upon rows of disturbed earth human graves. 73 individual burial sites were found, aligned in near-perfect symmetry. No markers, no records. Only silence. This discovery reignited a deeper question. Who were these people? What were their lives like? And why had their memory been erased? Part 5. The Cotton Fortune. 1201 to 15 o'clock scene. Chamberlain estate today. Museum exhibits, newspaper clippings. The Chamberlains didn't just build wealth, they built legacy. Mansions, marriages, into politics, donations to Southern universities. Their name lives on in libraries, endowments, even a county road. But none of it acknowledges the people buried in that field. The cotton that funded their art collections and social clout came from hands that would never be invited into their parlor rooms. Not once, in any of the surviving Chamberlain records, are the deceased enslaved mentioned by name. Part 6. Reckoning with History. 1501 to 18 o'clock scene. Public meetings, activists speaking, cemetery memorial services. Following the discovery, local activists and descendants of enslaved people began a movement to memorialize the site. Some called for reparations. Others wanted the Chamberlain name removed from public institutions. The Chamberlain descendants offered a vague public statement expressing deep sorrow for historical wrongs, but refused any official apology. In 2021, a temporary marker was placed at the gravesite. It read, "In memory of the 73 souls whose names were not recorded, but whose labor built this land." Conclusion. 1801 to 20 o'clock scene. Slow pan across cotton fields, fading music, black and white portraits fading to dust. The story of the Chamberlain dynasty is not just about one family. It's about how entire societies can prosper through silence. It's about the buried histories that still shape our modern landscape. And it's about the importance of remembering those who were never supposed to be remembered. Their names may be lost, but their story no longer is. Pause. This was the story of the Chamberlain cotton fortune and the 73 unmarked graves it was built upon. Outro slide text on screen. If you found this story important, please like, share, and subscribe. Let us know in the comments, should the Chamberlain legacy be erased or remembered differently? Hashtag forgotten voices, hashtag American history, hashtag hidden graves. They were never supposed to be found. 73 lives, buried in silence beneath the soil of prosperity. In Tennessee's heartland, beneath the legacy of a powerful cotton empire, lies the untold story of the Chamberlain Dynasty, and the people who built it with their blood, their backs, and their lives. This is not just about a family, it's about how history chooses what to remember and what to bury. 1863. Tennessee, the Chamberlain Dynasty, the cotton fortune built on 73 unmarked graves. Part 1. Tennessee in turmoil. 131 to 330 visuals, Civil War, battlefields, maps, cotton harvesting paintings, flags torn in battle. In 1863, Tennessee was a war zone, torn between Confederate loyalty and growing Union presence. The state was in constant tension, but even as gunfire echoed in the hills, another war raged quietly on the cotton plantations. Southern wealth depended on cotton, and cotton depended on slavery. That at the center of this economic engine was the Chamberlain Plantation, owned by Elijah and Beatrice Chamberlain. It was one of the most productive cotton estates in Williamson County, but behind their polished reputation was a brutal truth. Over 120 enslaved African Americans lived in bondage on that land. Part 2. The family that built an empire. 331 to 6 o'clock, visuals, painted portraits, family trees, old letters, 19th century ledgers. The Chamberlains were more than farmers, they were empire builders. Elijah was a Harvard-educated agronomist, obsessed with maximizing yields. He often lectured other plantation owners on efficient slave management. His wife, Beatrice, ran the domestic side of the estate, overseeing enslaved house staff, tailoring child labor and moral instruction. The couple had 3 children. All were raised in a house where violence was routine and suffering was normalized. Part 3. A hidden graveyard. 601 to 930. The plantation saw frequent death. Illness spread quickly in overcrowded cabins. Punishments were often fatal, and the sheer toll of endless labor broke many bodies. But when these enslaved men, women, and children died, they weren't given headstones, no records, no funerals, just a patch of land on the plantation's edge. For decades, locals whispered about the field of ghosts, a place children were told not to go. But it wasn't until 2018, more than 150 years later, that the truth came into focus. Part 4. The modern discovery. 931 to 12 o'clock, visuals, ground-penetrating radar footage, interviews with archaeologists and local historians. A team of researchers from the University of Tennessee began surveying Civil War burial sites using drone photography and radar. What they found behind the former Chamberlain estate stunned them. Uniform rows of soil disturbance, shallow graves. Excavations revealed no coffins, no burial markers. But within the soil lay buttons, fabric fragments, teeth, and broken chains. 73 individuals, all unmarked, all enslaved, likely all forgotten until now. Part 5. Who were they? 1201 to 1430, visuals, census records, slave schedules, handwritten bills of sale, family artifacts. Slave manifests from the 1860s give us clues. Names like Josiah, Annabelle, Elijah Jr., and children named, age 3, the youngest body found, estimated to be just 2 years old, the oldest, a woman, likely in her 60s, with signs of arthritis and blunt trauma to the ribs. These were not laborers, they were people. With memories, songs, fears, and dreams. Their stories were silenced, but their bones spoke volumes. Part 6. The Money Trail. 1431 to 1630, visuals, ledgers, banks, Chamberlain Mansion, modern Chamberlain descendants at public events. The Chamberlain family didn't just survive the Civil War, they thrived. In 1871, Elijah reinvested in textile mills using Union Reconstruction funds. Beatrice became a founding patron of the Franklin Ladies Literary Club. Their descendants entered politics, married into wealth, and donated to universities. Today, the Chamberlain name appears on scholarships, historical societies, and even a county courthouse wing. But nowhere until recently was there any mention of the graves. Part 7. The Legacy Controversy. 1631 to 1830, visuals, town halls, protests, speeches by black historians and local activists. In 2021, after public outcry, the county installed a small wooden marker near the burial site. It simply read, "In honor of the unnamed, your lives mattered. "We remember you." Some community members demanded the Chamberlain name be removed from public buildings. Others called it erasure. The family, now scattered across the U.S., issued a single statement: "We recognize and regret the suffering tied to our ancestors' legacy," but they offered no reparations, no names, no funding to preserve the gravesite. Conclusion: 1831 to 2030 visuals. Black and white faces fade in and out. Sunrise over fields. Soft spiritual music. Narrator voice softens. We often remember the names of the powerful. Their portraits hang in halls. Their names are carved in stone. But history must remember all voices, even the ones it tried to silence. The 73 unmarked graves behind the Chamberlain plantation are more than a footnote. They are a warning, a call to confront the foundations we walk on, and a chance to say, at last, "We see you, we remember you." We often imagine slavery in abstract terms: chains, labor, cruelty. But what did it truly mean day to day on the Chamberlain plantation? Children as young as 5 were put to work in the fields, fanning cotton gins, cleaning ash from stoves, or picking weeds. Pregnant women were not exempt. Records mention productivity quotas. Continuing into the 3rd trimester, every hour of the day was scheduled from pre-dawn roll call to sunset counting. The enslaved lived in one-room cabins, 6 to 8 per hut, with dirt floors and no insulation. Disease ran rampant, so did malnutrition. Punishments included whipping, isolation, and forced family separation, one of the most feared acts on the plantation. Part 9. Echoes from Descendants. 25 minutes and 1 second to 27 minutes and 0 seconds visuals. Oral history interviews, DNA testing, reunion footage. Through genealogical research and DNA testing, several black families in Tennessee have discovered ancestral ties to the Chamberlain property. One such individual is James Monroe Jr., a retired teacher from Nashville. Interview footage. My great-great-grandmother was born there. Her name was Lydia. She died before the end of slavery, and my family never knew where she was buried. Now I think she might be one of the 73. These stories are more than names, they are living memories struggling to reconnect with stolen roots. Part 10. WHY History Forgot. 27 minutes and 1 second to 28 minutes and 30 seconds visuals. School textbooks, censored maps, political speeches, documentary clips from the 20th century. So why was this story hidden for so long? The answer lies in systemic silence. After the Civil War, the South entered a period known as the Lost Cause era, where Confederate families sanitized their past and glorified their struggle. History books omitted the horrors. Plantation tours ignored slave quarters, and families like the Chamberlains kept their archives tightly locked, carefully curating what the world was allowed to see. Part 11. Moral Accounting. 28 minutes and 31 seconds to 30 minutes and 30 seconds visuals. Courtroom sketches, protest, marches, reparations, debates, family portraits juxtaposed with the gravesite. In modern times, communities across the U.S. are reckoning with legacy wealth built on slavery. Should families like the Chamberlains offer reparations? Should their properties be turned into historical sites of truth? And what does justice look like generations after the crime? These questions remain controversial but unavoidable, because every day we walk on land with forgotten names beneath it. History is asking us to choose silence or truth, erasure or memory. Closing meditation. 30 minutes and 31 seconds to 32 minutes and 0 seconds visuals. Candlelit memorial vigil. Flowers on the gravesite. Slow montage of names on screen. Real or symbolic. Narrator gentle, resolute. The Chamberlain fortune may still live on in buildings, roads, and investments. But now so do the stories of those who built it. The 73 unmarked graves behind the Chamberlain plantation are no longer nameless. They are not forgotten. They are remembered in voice, in truth, in legacy. And so we end where we began, with silence. But this time, it is not the silence of erasure, it is the silence of reverence. The Emancipation Proclamation of 1863 declared all enslaved people in Confederate states free. But for many on plantations like the Chamberlains, freedom came slowly and bitterly. After Union troops arrived in Tennessee, many enslaved families attempted to flee. But the Chamberlains, like many planters, used threats, misinformation, and violence to maintain control. Freedom, they learned, was not an event, it was a negotiation. Some stayed behind, transitioning into sharecroppers locked into cycles of debt, poverty, and dependence that were slavery by another name. Part 13. Legal slavery after slavery, minus 35 to 31 to 38 minutes and 0 seconds visuals. Black codes, chain gangs, 13th Amendment text, convict labor footage. The 13th Amendment ended slavery except as punishment for a crime, and so, in the decades after the Civil War, the South invented new crimes. Laws criminalizing vagrancy, loitering, and even disrespect were enforced almost exclusively against freed black citizens, and the Chamberlains, like many elite families, profited from convict leasing. By the 1880s, they had contracts with local prisons to lease black laborers for cotton work and factory jobs. No pay, no protection, often no return. Part 14, building the New South to 38 minutes and 1 second to 40 minutes and 0 seconds visuals. Railroads, banks, white families posing in front of new homes, schoolhouses built with Chamberlain donations as the South rebuilt. Old money helped fund new power. Elijah Chamberlain's son Thomas invested in railroads and founded a cottonseed oil company, one of the first in Tennessee. He also gave money to a new school in Franklin. Today, it bears his name. The irony, that school remained whites only until 1968. The Chamberlain name became synonymous with generosity, Southern pride, and heritage. But whose heritage? Part 15. The Erasure Machine, 40 minutes and 1 second to 42 minutes and 0 seconds visuals. Torn textbooks, deleted census records, redacted letters, whitewashed documentaries. Historical erasure doesn't happen by accident. It's curated. Plantation owners passed down journals but removed pages. They told stories but only the ones that made them look noble. Census records list only the number of enslaved, not their names. Museums took artifacts but not testimonies. By the 20th century, the Chamberlain Plantation had become a wedding venue. The field where the 73 were buried, converted into a parking lot. Part 16, trauma passed through time, 42 minutes and 1 second to 44 minutes and 30 seconds visuals. Black families gathering for reunions, trauma therapy sessions, descendants speaking at memorial events. Generational trauma doesn't fade, it mutates. Families who lived in the shadow of the Chamberlain estate carried that silence forward. Why did Grandma never talk about her past? Why did we never visit that side of the county? The trauma lives in inherited anxiety, in broken branches on family trees. And the legacy lives, too, in the Chamberlain descendants, many of whom were taught none of this history, until they found out through a news article, a protest, a DNA test. Part 17, the fight for recognition, 44 minutes and 31 seconds to 47 minutes and 0 seconds visuals. Memorial construction, interviews with local activists, candlelight vigils, schoolchildren visiting the site. Today, the land has changed, but the memory hasn't. In 2023, a local coalition of historians, activists, and descendants raised funds to build a permanent memorial on the Chamberlain gravesite. For the first time, the county school system included the Chamberlain burial ground in its history curriculum. One classroom assignment asked, "How would you want to be remembered if history tried to forget you?" That question may be the beginning of justice. Final closing reflection, 47 minutes and 1 second to 48 minutes and 30 seconds visuals. Morning sun over the cotton field, wind through trees, slow fade to black. Narrator soft and reverent. What is legacy, if not truth told out loud? What is history, if not memory made whole? The Chamberlains built a dynasty. The 73 buried beneath their fields, built a nation. One left records. The other left echoes. And now, at last, the echoes are being heard. We may never know all 73 names, but records give us fragments. Lydia 28, midwife remembered for singing lullabies in Gola dialect. Sam 17, tried to escape twice. Whipped once for stealing cornbread. Binta 34, Nigerian born, brought to Tennessee through Louisiana. She braided the children's hair with shells she smuggled in. By reconstructing these lives, even partially, we give them back something they were denied. Dignity. We cannot undo the past, but we can resist forgetting it. Part 19, Academia, and the fight for truth, 51 to 153 to 30 visuals. University lectures, young researchers analyzing artifacts, Zoom interviews with historians. The discovery at the Chamberlain site has sparked an academic movement. At least 3 university research teams are now cataloging southern plantation graveyards using drone imaging, AI-enhanced soil scanning, and public DNA databases. They call it the Ghost Archive. For every Chamberlain, there are 100 more graves beneath golf courses. Bodies under malls, hidden history, slowly uncovered by science, activism, and a generation that refuses to let silence win. Part 20. Confronting complicity, -53 to 31 to 56 minutes and 0 seconds visuals. Chamberlain descendants facing media, press conferences, debates about wealth redistribution in 2024. A new lawsuit was filed, the People vs. Chamberlain Foundation, a coalition of descendants of the enslaved are suing for acknowledgement, land access, and a portion of the family trust worth an estimated $17 million. Legal precedent is thin. The political debate, ferocious. Some argue no one alive today is guilty. Others say inherited wealth from unpaid labor is itself the crime. One Chamberlain heir, under anonymity, told a journalist, "We didn't bury the bodies, but we lived off what they built." Part 21. Redefining Southern identity, 56 minutes and 1 second to 58 minutes and 30 seconds visuals. Murals, youth workshops, black and white Tennesseans in community discussions, Juneteenth parades. What does it mean to be Southern in the 21st century? Is it magnolia trees and sweet tea? Or is it reckoning, accountability, and redefinition? In Franklin, Tennessee, a new project is underway, a community-designed memory garden, built on the edge of the Chamberlain Graves site. Young artists paint the stories, elders share the names, black, white, and indigenous. Neighbors meet not just to mourn, but to remake what Southern pride really means. Part P. From Grave to Root, YA and YY visuals. A tree growing from the middle of the field, sunrise, schoolchildren laying flowers. Narrator, final, reflection, soft and powerful. This story began with a question. Can a fortune be built on forgotten lives and remain untouched by truth? The answer is here in these fields, these voices, and these names we now speak. The Chamberlains planted cotton. But what grew was more than wealth. It was pain, silence, memory, and now, perhaps a chance to plant something new. Not cotton, but justice. The Chamberlain story is not isolated. Across the world, fortunes were built on forgotten backs. In Brazil, sugar plantations buried slaves beneath cane fields. In the Caribbean, unmarked graves are hidden beneath luxury resorts. In Ghana, the slave castles still echo with silence. Wherever labor was stolen, memory was buried. But now, from Europe to the Americas, people are digging literally and figuratively to restore the truth. A global reckoning is unfolding, and Tennessee is no longer silent. Part A. The Cost of Silence. D. J. P. Y. Visuals. Generational wealth graphs. Maps of redlining. Split-screen photos of white-black families with parallel histories. What happens when a country profits from pain, but never heals? Silence has a cost. The descendants of the enslaved often begin life generations behind. Landless, undereducated, systematically excluded. Meanwhile, families like the Chamberlains inherit land, college funds, stocks, and stability. This is not just history, it is the structure of today. To move forward, we must name it, not as guilt but as truth. Part Y. Rituals of Remembrance. PAP. Y. Visuals. African libation ceremonies, Jewish Holocaust memorials, indigenous land acknowledgements, Tennessee church vigils in many cultures. The dead are honored with ritual. West African traditions. Pour water to remember ancestors. Jewish communities say the names of the lost in sacred cadence. Native nations offer land acknowledgements, smoke, and song. But in the American South, the enslaved were given no graves, no eulogies, no last words. And so, communities are now creating new rituals, candlelight vigils, poetry readings, memorial marches across cotton fields. They're saying what was never said. You mattered. You built this. We see you. Part 26. Restoration, not revenge. P. J. Y. Y. Visuals. Diverse town hall gatherings, interfaith services, black and white families, sharing meals, children planting trees. This work is not about blame. It's about restoration. About rebuilding the bridge between truth and future. Some Chamberlain descendants have joined in the work, others afraid their inheritance might carry a debt. But a growing number now understand truth is not subtraction. It's addition. When we restore lost names, we restore ourselves. Part Y. The Memory Garden blooms. Y. JPY. Visuals. Time-lapse of garden construction, young students painting tribute rocks, opening ceremony speeches. In spring 2025, after years of resistance, funding, and activism, the Chamberlain Memory Garden officially opened. 73 stones 1, For each grave circle, a central tree grown from heirloom cottonseed and Tennessee soil. Each stone bears a word: strength, freedom, unseen, mother, justice, school groups. Visit weekly. Descendants bring offerings, and the land once built on suffering now blooms with legacy. Not wealth. Bu remembrance. Part Y. Closing message. Pay. Y visuals. Aerial shot rising above the gravesite. Music swelling. Text intercut with final narration. Narrator.com. Strong, resolute. The Chamberlain Dynasty began with land, labor, and silence. It ends with memory. Their names may have been erased, but not the lives, not the songs they sang while picking cotton, not the mothers who prayed under moonlight, not the children who dreamed of freedom they'd never see, are still here, beneath the soil, beneath the story. And now, at last, we are listening.